Hello and welcome to another episode of What's Inside. Today we are looking at a vintage Basement Games Unlimited LLC Forge Out of Chaos referee screen. This is obviously for the Forge Out of Chaos role-playing game. And you can see it's the referee screen. It says it several times. This retailed originally for $12.95 US. Code is BGU1004. And it says special World of Juravia offer inside. I'm sure I butchered that word. I don't really care. So this one's still shrink wrapped. So let's open it up and take a look at it and see what it looks like on the inside and get a better idea of that wraparound picture. Because it's a trifold screen, so finding these still sealed is pretty difficult, but they are out there. It wasn't a huge success as a game. I have a copy of it somewhere. I don't think I've ever actually read it, but I usually buy the GM screens, or in this case the referee screen, for whatever game I'm buying the book for, because I'm a completionist at heart, and back when I was doing roleplay stuff, I had tons of this stuff. So I would always buy, if I bought a book and it looked interesting, I'd usually buy the core book, one or two supplements, and the ref screen. So, alright, so this is actually just glued on there. Now let's see what we got here. It's got their website and some login information. I doubt this website's even around anymore, but we'll look at that real quick. There's a piece of glue on here I gotta get off, because not only am I a completionist, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist with my stuff. And that is really old glue. So here's the little banner piece that I just pulled off. It actually is supposed to simulate, that's part of the art that we just looked at. Doesn't have any copyright information on it, but it just has some login information for this website that I don't think is around anymore, because I think the company went out. So it's just a source guide, but it's just a website address. And then we've got our screen here. Oh, it's much bigger than I thought it was going to be. It's a fourfold. So we'll look at each picture in turn, because I can't really zoom out. So here we have this here, and then it folds out to this part with this guy, which then folds out to the obvious villain. Looks like an orc or something. And then we've got these monster things here. And that art is by R. Wyatt Smith. So inside the screen, the colors held up really well. It's still nice and white. There's no copyright date. Oh, yep, 1999. There is. So there's the copyright information down here. Basement Games, 1999. For being as old as it is, the color is still very nice, very sharp white. So I don't know where this was stored other than my storage unit. But it looks like it's held up very well over time. I do like the simplistic layout. There's not a lot of cluttered art or anything. That was probably done for cost savings, but as a game master, I always liked having these nice and clean with a nice white background so I could read the charts. The charts were important to the game and the flow of the game and the pacing. So having a background picture that would clutter all this information up actually really annoyed me most of the time. Few exceptions on that one. I like everything quick reference, sit there and play the game. I don't want to have to look crap up all the time. So this is actually more along the lines of the type of screen that I actually do like. So, because usually I hate screens. They're usually nothing like I need. But this actually has a lot of the charts that I would want. Attacks per minute, defensive values, and since a lot of these older games relied heavily on charts to determine success or failure, and they usually were much more complicated than modern games, you needed the charts at quick reference, and constantly flipping through your book really tore up your book. some damage stuff, strength, dexterity, awareness, you know, stats stuff, movement, speeds, that sort of thing. So yeah, all useful information. Some of this is kind of useless, like the race stuff at the top here. You'll probably have memorized if you're playing the game. Now, my main complaint with this, the thickness of this is actually kind of thin, but for the time period, it actually is about average. So it's not going to hold up well if you bend it. And heavy use will definitely wear this out. So if you're really into the game, you might want to get 2 of these. It's a nice size screen though. 4-fold was actually fairly uncommon. And usually they were 3-fold, as I recall. But maybe I'm wrong, I'm remembering it wrong. But I think the only one I had that was a 4-fold that I actually used was the Cthulhu one, which I still have around somewhere. I'll have to find that. But yeah, my main complaint is the art. The art is very amateurish. I don't mean to be mean. I see what they were going for, but it looks like they had a smaller piece of art that got zoomed in on, and you could see the flaws more distinctly because it's either that or it was done with pastels like more like chalky material, because you can kind of see that there's not a lot of detailing and it's very rough and out of focus looking. What really annoyed me though is once you see this, you can't unsee it. Where he's holding the sword, you can see the pommel of the sword that goes into his hand, and the rest of the hilt here is off center. This should actually be moved up a slight amount, about, I don't know, about an inch actually up, because otherwise he's holding it right at the edge of the hilt and it looks really silly. So instead of holding it like this, he's holding it back here and it looks really goofy, and you can't really see it unless you look real closely at where the pommel is and where his hand is positioned, because all of this should be shifted upward just a little, and it drives me nuts. I noticed it the second I found this, and I was like, oh, that's obnoxious. And you can also kind of see what I'm talking about with the faces and some of the other, like these guys should be kind of out of focus, their background stuff, but I think this was done with like chalk or something of that nature, where it's more designed to be viewed from a distance, or it was a smaller image that was expanded out to make the screen. So that's my main complaint, is that it's incredibly out of focus looking, and it doesn't really add anything. It would drive me nuts as a player looking at this. Thankfully, I'm usually the game master, so I don't have to look at it. I get to look at the charts, which is boring, but at least that isn't going to drive me bonkers. But overall, it's an average screen for its time. The low-end games that weren't real big companies tended to be kind of poor. This is actually a pretty decent screen for the time period. I just don't like the cover art. I think it's weak art for what they're trying to do. For a general image, it's not bad. It's just it's too close up. It's more of something that you'd put as a smaller image. But I see what they're trying to do, and there is nice colors to it. It's just the whole thing looks slightly out of focus. But the artist should be proud. They did get a referee screen image, and that's a point of pride. But overall, it's a pretty decent chart. Decent charts for the screen. So overall, it's kind of mid-range, I would say. By today's standards, this is pretty weak, but by the standards of the day, it definitely is within the mainstream realm of Game Master screens. So this is Forge Out of Chaos referee screen from Basement Games Unlimited LLC, and it's definitely not the worst I've ever seen, and definitely not the best. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely somewhere in the middle. But if it's an RPG that you're looking at, I would definitely try and track this down, because it's a nice size screen and it does have a lot of information inside. So if you find it new, I would pick it up if you like the game. If you see it cheap used, go ahead and pick it up anyway if you're going to play the game once or twice. Because if nothing else, you can use it for a different game and just put a piece of paper over the charts that are in here. So I like the fact that it's a fourfold. That does add a lot of points to it and does kind of compensate for the sword nonsense going on here. But overall, yeah, middle of the road. Pretty decent. If you're going to play Forge Out of Chaos, I recommend it. But that'll do it for this episode. As always, thank you for watching and supporting the channel. Be sure and let your friends know about the show so we can grow a little faster and try and get more product to show. And that'll do it for this episode. As always, thank you so much for watching, supporting the channel. I'm going to repeat myself a lot. And we'll catch you on the next episode, hopefully. Thanks for watching.